Alright, it's Friday, which means it's Fuzz Friday. This week's episode is going to be a little different. Let's kind of call it an extended Let's Get Nerdy section. We're going to be diving into the age-old question, what is fuzz? And how does it differ from distortion and overdrive? Let's get to it. Alright, so let's get nerdy. What exactly is a fuzz? A fuzz is going to be a high-gain distortion with aggressive square wave clipping that typically, but not always, comes from either silicon or germanium transistors. So let's take a step back and start with overdrive. Overdrive is going to be a means of altering your sound via soft clipping. So in kind of comparison to distortion and fuzz that utilize hard clipping, it's going to be a lot more natural sounding, not as aggressive, smooth. It's going to have more dynamics because it's not high gain and it's not being compressed. And now next in kind of line would be distortion, which is going to be hard clipping, high gain sound. So it is aggressive. It is definitely altering your tone. You don't have quite as much dynamics as you do with, let's say an overdrive. And then the beast of them all is going to be fuzz. So technically, a fuzz is a distortion, but not all distortions are fuzzes. So fuzz takes that hard clipping distorted sound and really gets aggressive with it. We're squashing that sound wave, very heavily compressed, aggressive square wave shapes instead of nice, more round as a soft clipping sound that look more in vein of sine. So when it comes to creating fuzz tones, the circuitry tends to be a cascading series of transistors. When it comes to fuzzes, there are kind of two main transistors used, with those being silicon and germanium, and both of them have very different tonal characteristics versus one another. So fuzzes, with this aggressive, hard clipping sound does differ from distortion, obviously in wave shape alone, but also the tone generation that fuzzes were designed to emulate. So fuzzes were designed to try and recreate these sounds of things like blown speakers, broken circuitry, gnarly, saturated console mixes. So fun fact, historically speaking, fuzz was the first distortion tone to be put in a stomp box. Obviously distortion had been used in the studio before, but fuzz had the one up and got in the stomp box form first to try and emulate some of those studio sounds. A little bit more on how fuzzes use a cascading series of either germanium or silicon transistors. We do have to keep in mind whether we are talking overdrives, distortions, or fuzzes, regardless what transistors or maybe it's diodes, op amps that these pedals are using. There is more to the circuitry and sound of the pedal than just those components alone. The stomp box is going to be the summation of all the components working together, and that's where a lot of these awesome builders really show their, expertise and give it their own characteristic. So we hope you kind of like this extended Let's Get Nerdy talk. We'll be doing a couple more here in the near future, talking about perhaps the difference between germanium and silicon sound in fuzzes, as amongst many others. So like always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.